Hey guys, how's it going? In this video we'll be talking about how web works. This is a very short crash course tutorial on the web. I wanted to do this because in our Node.js series we'll be talking a lot more about how web works, and we'll be doing a lot of stuff which relates to the web. So I just wanted to give you guys an introduction on how it works in case you didn't know, or just a refresher for those who know how it works and that kind of stuff. So let's get started. So first of all, you have your computer and you have your server. Your computer basically has a browser installed which understands HTML, and you have a server which spits out HTML. The web works in a variety of communication languages: HTML, XML, JSON, and other stuff. But HTML is predominantly used for web browsing, because you can't really read JSON. You don't want to read pages and pages of JSON data. You want to read pages which are nicely formatted into paragraphs, into blog posts which contain comments, and that kind of stuff. You don't want to read raw JSON data. If you want to look at how JSON data, what it is and how it looks like, we're covering that in Node.js series so much that you will probably get sick of it at one point. You'll be like, oh my god, I hate this, but I'm pretty sure you won't hate it. It's pretty cool. So basically you have your computer and you have your server. Your computer wants something and your server provides something, and they both know the same language, which is HTML, among other things. You open up your browser and you type in www.gmail.com. Now, a lot of things happen after that, but we're just going to focus on the important bits, which is the actual communication. So when you type in gmail.com and you press enter in the URL bar, your browser, or your computer rather, basically goes onto gmail.com and says, hey, get me gmail.com. What that basically does is that tells the gmail.com server, there's probably a farm of servers behind Gmail, but this is just an example, so don't hold me to it that this is exactly how Gmail works. This is not how Gmail works. This is a very crude example. So yeah, it says, hey, get me gmail.com, and gmail.com goes ahead and says, oh, okay, I've got some data for you, and it's in HTML, and it sends back HTML. And that HTML would contain your Gmail login page, where you log into your Gmail account using your ID and password. And if you're like me, who never logs in, I had to log out and make sure that's what it returned. So yeah, basically that returns you the HTML page. Your browser deciphers this page, or rather decodes this HTML and displays it onto the screen. So it then renders your HTML, gets all of the CSS files, gets all of the images, displays the images, formats them in the correct alignment and the correct order and all of that stuff, does the coloring and stuff, and that's how you actually see the page. So your browser is very intelligent. Your browser is more intelligent than the actual server, because the server just spits out HTML, and then the browser has to go through the actual HTML code line by line and has to look at tags, and if the programmer on the other side is a nutcase, then the browser has to be intelligent and match those tags on its own, and sort of do all that stuff by itself. So your browser is really, really intelligent than the actual server. In some cases the server is more intelligent, but I always consider the browser to be the more intelligent one of the two. So yeah, your browser has the page, you have a nice login screen, then you go ahead and type in your username, which is blah 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 at gmail.com, then you type in your password, which is blah blah 1. I'm sure that's the correct password. If not, then email me your password. No, don't actually do that. Don't do that. So yeah, basically that's what happens. That's your GET request. GET request is basically give me something. That's what GET request is. And once you have the page, once you put in your username and password, and then you press enter, basically your browser sends a post request to the same server, or another server if mentioned otherwise. With a payload, your payload contains username and password, or maybe more than that, a lot more. Could contain CSRF tokens and a lot of other cookies and headers and stuff, but we're not going to go into that detail right now. We're just going to stay at a higher level of this process. So post request is sent to the server. Server then looks up your username, password, sees if you're a valid user, if your account's active, if you are a Gmail user, in fact, and then gets back to you with a HTML if you're valid, where that HTML might say something like, hey, welcome, and your Gmail inbox page. It could redirect you to another application within Gmail, which then handles your inbox and stuff. There are multiple ways of doing authentication, so it could use any one of those 100 million ways. So yeah, that's in a nutshell how your communication works on the web. A request is sent, a response is expected, response comes back. Something happens on your side, then you invoke something, and then something goes back again, and server then handles it and does all that stuff. So in this example, what we've covered is we've covered two requests: GET request and a POST request. GET request is give me data. POST request is posting data. It's like sending a post envelope with the payload. In our case, payload is this JSON data, which is and I said if we wanted to have a look at JSON data, this is what JSON data looks like. It's a key value based object. So this is a JSON object containing two attributes: username and password. Username with value of blah at gmail.com and password with value of blah blah. JSON can also nest documents, so you can have username with another object with multiple attributes and values, and yeah, that kind of stuff. So basically that's the communication. We're going to now move into how what these protocols are. So we covered GET and POST here. There are two more. There are actually more than two, but we're going to cover 4 in total in this video. If needed, I'll create another video with more comprehensive view on what these GET requests, what these REST things are, and then we'll talk about it. So yeah, the 4 basic ones are GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE. We covered GET and POST in the previous one. That PUT and DELETE I'll explain you in a minute. GET is basically content retrieval. GET says give me this data and all of this stuff, and it expects output. POST is creation, or rather giving data. POST has a payload. It says you send a POST request to gmail.com with username and password, and then it creates authentication token and then gets back to you, basically. PUT is modification of data. So when you have a saved draft in your Gmail inbox, and when you edit it, and when you say save, or when it automatically saves it for you, it might be making a PUT request behind the scenes. And then the 4th one that you have is delete, which obviously means removal of data, deletion of data. That sends a request to the server saying delete this resource and stuff. These 4 are the protocols that are used for the REST APIs, RESTful web services. If you have SOAP web services, then it's another matter. But these are the REST protocols. REST is widely used nowadays, I think, over SOAP. When I started university, we were taught both REST and SOAP, but there was massive emphasis on how REST worked and all of that stuff. So, and I really like the way REST works. This is it's a very clean way of doing things, which is what I like about REST. Over SOAP, which is a lot more clunky in my opinion, but it's just an opinion. Each of these things are bound with a resource, so you have a GET resource. In our previous example, get gmail.com. Gmail.com was a resource. Sure, it's a URL, but at the end of the day, it's gmail.com /, and that / is your resource. You're accessing the root resource. Yeah, so basically, you with get, post, put, delete, these they all help you do stuff with that resource. We'll cover that all later, but yeah, this is basically how it all works. How all of the web pages work. Well, majority of them work. They may not follow the same conventions, so there's no strict rule on how to implement these things. You can make post do something else which it's not supposed to do. You can make get um, create the authentication token that you were supposed to do using post. There's no hard limits, but this is pretty much what it should be used for. And it would be nice if you used it in that way, because then it makes your system more manageable and more, good, I guess. But yeah, this is how it's supposed to be used. But again, there's no strict rules and there's no strict limits on, on these things. So if you use put to say delete something, then it wouldn't stop you. It wouldn't say, hey, stop it, I'm not going to do this for you, you're going to have to do this way. No, it's very, very open, and that's how web works. It's very open and has an open nature, Yep, so basically that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you guys back in the Node.js tutorials. Till then, bye bye, and have a good one.